Welcome to Wheelers Extra. Nathan Baird from the Indy Star.
Coming in hot. We were live before I even knew we were on. Sam King from the Journal and Courier.
I lost my reading glasses within the last week, and it has ruined my life. But tonight it was Purdue ruining Auburn's life. It's 88-60. In so many ways, a mirror image of last season, right? Like Auburn leads Purdue by like 33 with less than 8 minutes left down in Birmingham, just blows them out of the water. And now Purdue comes back and does a similar version of that. And talking to Matt Painter, a couple things like jumped out to my ear in the post game when he was talking about last year, where Auburn was this powerhouse and they had this swagger, and they showed up every night knowing they would kick your ass or something like that, is what he said. And hope that doesn't get us flagged on YouTube. And that was what Purdue looked like tonight. And I think the best version of Purdue can be that. I think the second half of the season is about refining what they already are and continuing, especially from a defensive standpoint, to try to keep pushing towards that identity.
Yeah, the thing that sticks out to me about this game, because Matt Painter also said this is the third straight game where they've held an opponent to 60 points or less, and Auburn got 60 late in this game. But this was a far better opponent than Marquette or Minnesota.
Yeah.
This might be Purdue's best defensive performance of the year. What it did to that team, just kind of shutting down, keeping them out of the paint, didn't foul them and send them to the line a whole lot, which is something that Auburn is kind of known for. I thought that was the thing that sticks out the most when you're talking about Big Ten play resuming in 2 weeks, where Purdue we thought had to improve the most, and it might have been a pretty quick fix in some ways.
Yeah, I think we should start there, because we should almost always start there with Purdue, because we know they're good at all these other things. Whether they're great defensively or not probably determines whether they're a championship team or not. And they came into this game worried primarily about two Auburn players. They have other good players, but they were worried primarily about two guys, Tahad Pettiford and Keyshawn Hall. And those guys both had a very limited impact on this game. Pettiford, 2 of 7 for 5 points, 1 assist in 25 minutes. And then turned his ankle in the second half. The game was basically over by then. It was too bad, because the whole point of this game for Purdue is to see as much of the best version of the opponent as they can. And then Hall, you need 11 shots to get 14 points. He had 3 turnovers. He was the worst box plus minus on the team at minus 30. So that was a lot of Braden Smith, CJ Cox. Braden Smith and CJ Cox on Pettiford. CJ Cox had a big hand in stopping Hall. I think Jakari Harris was in there some. Those guys have been taking on some of the bigger guards, but this was that's where this has been starting now for Purdue ever since the second half of that Iowa State game, which has been this season's version of last year's Auburn game. So it's not like they're immune to it now, but I think the thing that stands out the most from these last 3 games is the defensive response, and tonight was just an extension of that.
Yeah, and like you said, we know what Purdue is offensively. I kind of went that route in my post-game story, that the team was built to have no flaws offensively. There should not be a weak point Purdue on this offense, with the way they can play inside, outside, with the amount of 3-point shooters it has, with the point guard and with Omer Meyer alongside with Braden Smith. But you're going to have to hold teams, as Matt Painter has alluded to. You're not going to win 6 NCAA tournament games blowing them out from the 3-point line, or with Trey Kaufman-Renn scoring 25 points. You're going to have to rely on your defense and getting stops. And Purdue, the first half, it got to, 14 by halftime maybe? It was double figures for a lot of that. But I never felt like Purdue went on some crazy run. It was just Purdue kind of meticulously picking apart Auburn over the course of 20 minutes to expand its lead to 14 points.
There were, I counted it up, I think there were 5 what they call kills, which is 3 consecutive stops in a row or more. I think they had 5 of them spread throughout the game, but there was one in the second half that was 7 possessions or 9 possessions. There was one stretch where they really had throttled them down, and at the same time, you've got Jakari Harris hitting threes, you got Jack Benner hitting threes. Jack Benner's out there getting just absolutely run over and taking charges. This was another game where you saw Matt Painter, when he's talking about things like powerhouse, if you're going to overwhelm a team, it's not going to happen with 5 guys. It's going to feel like it's just relentless waves of talent that are coming at you. And this version of Purdue kind of fits that description. This version of Purdue doesn't exist every night, at least not yet, but we've seen it now multiple times against good teams. Did Texas Tech end up beating Duke tonight? Like, that was a team that, I mean, Purdue just blew them out of the gym or whatever that room was down in the Bahamas.
Ballroom.
The ballroom. Blew them out of the ballroom. And Auburn was a top 25 team and got just crushed tonight by Purdue. And it's when you start talking about the things that make a Final Four team, I mean, it's a little bit hard to compare this to 2 years ago because that Purdue team had the one force of nature in the middle of things that sort of defies description. But I think you could maybe start to compare this Purdue team a little bit, not person by person that it matches up exactly, but just the concept of it to a team like Auburn last year that was just so gifted and could just be a fireball rolling downhill against any team in the country on any given night. I had forgotten that last year, like, Purdue had some struggles down the stretch last year, losing against teams like Michigan and Michigan State. Just didn't seem like it was physical enough, definitely couldn't defend well enough to stop them, and had other issues as well. Those are the teams that Auburn beat in the Sweet 16 and Elite Eight to get to the Final Four. And Purdue actually still almost got back to that level last year, just wasn't quite there. This year, obviously, the goal is to be even better than that, and they know what this looks like because a lot of them experienced it 2 years ago. And for the ones who didn't, they saw it up close last year with teams like Auburn and Houston and maybe Iowa State 2 weeks ago. That was very impressive. And now, though, with Texas Tech, with this game, they have seen the other side of it too. They've seen how they can be that if they apply themselves.
Yeah, and in my analysis of this game, I did pretty much a breakdown comparative offensively 2 years ago versus today. And Zach Edey aside, the numbers are eerily similar from number of 2-point makes, 2-point attempts per game. Now, granted, Purdue hasn't gone through the Big Ten stretch yet. That's just going to, kind of ruin some of those numbers probably when you start seeing teams that know you a lot better and things like that. But 3-point makes, 3-point attempts, points per game, the number of guys averaging 1 3-point attempt per game and shooting better than 35.5% from three. A lot of the things are right on par with that team 2 years ago, which was proven that, that's an offense you can win a championship with. And the big thing was just Purdue had to have a defense that matched or could hold its own for that offense to be successful enough to put away teams. And that's what we saw tonight. We kind of saw the total package. I think it was kind of the most indicative showing this year that Purdue can be a Final Four caliber team.
Texas Tech did beat Duke tonight, by the way, 82-81. So first loss of the season for Duke, which has been getting number one votes, as Purdue obviously was not that long ago as well. So that win now in the Bahamas looks even better because Texas Tech goes out and beats a team of that caliber. Just to touch on some themes tonight, like the Jack Bender thing really impressed me because, when you're playing Marquette, when you're playing Eastern Illinois, you're playing teams like that, Trey Offerman comes in and does his thing, and a lot of nights that and the star players doing what they do is going to be enough to get you through. Trey Offerman right now is creating like so much energy, and it's setting such a tone when he's out there.
Like he's rebounding right now. I've not seen it in this 4 years.
No, it's
playing in 5 years at Purdue.
I just wrote about this earlier this week. Like he's basically doubled his rebounding. If you extrapolate, especially over 30 minutes, he's doubled what he was doing early and throughout his career. Like he's become almost a different player this season with the way that he's rebounding. And there's that. There's also just the way that he backs guys down and gets those baskets. Or when he hits those floaters, like it resonates through the whole team, right? So when he sits down, which he eventually does have to do, there's the danger of there being sort of a vacuum of those things, right? But then Jack Bender comes in the first half, I think it was the first possession after Offerman sat down and hits that three at the top of the key. Then like 90 seconds later, he's getting just trucked by a 6'10" guy and takes an offensive foul in the lane. And then in the second half, he's taken another offensive foul. He's hitting more threes. He had the play where they didn't call an offensive foul, but he basically got what you and Newbert were a DDT. It's been a long time since I watched any pro wrestling, I'm sad to say. But I just thought that was the kind of thing that you have to have not to necessarily beat a team like Auburn, but if you crush a team like Auburn, that's essential to it. Like what he did, what Jakari Harris did in the second half, in conjunction with what CJ Cox did in the first half, like those things are not how you beat a team like Auburn, but it's how you like crush a team like Auburn, and is indicative of the potential that you need to have every single night. Because even when you fall short of it, even if you fall short of that ceiling, it's still a very high ceiling.
Yeah, I think the thing that maybe most is telling of the depth of this team, Fletcher Lawyer went over 7 from 3, and I don't think he took a bad shot. They were all looked like they were right on line. They just weren't falling in tonight. And you get picked up from Jakari Harris, who was shooting 28% from 3 before this game, hits 4 in a row. CJ Cox hit 2 right out of the gate early that Purdue probably needed just to take off some of that pressure. And Purdue was down, I think, 9-6, and then he hits 2 in a row. So Purdue led the rest of the game after that, I think. He hits 4 threes. Jack Benter hits 3 threes. Those guys picked him up, and that's kind of why this offense was constructed this way. If somebody has an off night, somebody else is supposed to step up and kind of fill that void, and that very much was the case here. You get 5 players in double figures. Trey Kaufman leading the way, kind of the guy that they went to down the stretch at the end to put this game away. Braden Smith kind of got there slowly but surely, but he had a ton of assists by halftime. I think he had 8 or 9 assists already. Jack Benter with 11 points. 2 of those were on a dunk where it was a 3 on nobody, and they ended up deciding that Jack Benter was going to dunk the ball there to get him into double figures. I was just way more impressed than I thought I would be by Purdue coming out of this. I thought Purdue would win this game by 9-10 points maybe and feel pretty good about itself with some extended time off now before the Kent State game. And instead, I leave here thinking like, man, this looks like a team that might be on a warpath.
There's a caveat here that last year they went down to Birmingham. You're in Auburn's backyard. It's not advantageous, or it is advantageous for Auburn. Here, you're coming to Indianapolis. That these guys have played here multiple times.
It was essentially a Purdue home game.
It was more or less a Purdue home game. It's like they call it semi-neutral on the KenPom list or whatever, but it's kind of like a glorified home game. But in other ways, that might still be instructive for Purdue in March. You never want to get ahead of yourselves, but there is a tournament path, as we've talked about before, that would take them from like St. Louis to Chicago to Indianapolis. And you're going to have a very pro-Purdue situation if you stay in the Midwest like that. I mean, they travel well for the postseason anyway. I'm not saying you don't out there, but that could be an even more advantageous situation. And to kind of use that to your advantage and take care of business to this extent, I'm not saying it's predictive, but it's just something to remember that it could be at this team's back when you get to March. Now, Iowa State's already got one up on you. Michigan looks really strong. You're going to have a tough fight to be the number 1 in the Midwest.
Michigan State's still in field right now.
Michigan State's still very good. So, like, who knows? But I'm just saying that popped into my mind tonight too. That like, yes, this is sort of a home game, but this is the kind of neutral court that Purdue might actually have at its advantage this postseason, depending on what happens over the next 15, 18 games.
One thing I noted early in this game, and not that you can do anything about it, and it's just a what if, but if Daniel Jacobson did not break his leg last year and Purdue had him, there is no such thing as an easy shot around the rim, and I think that's made Purdue's defense a lot better because Matt Painter talked about Jaden Ivey in the postgame, and when he would get beat off the dribble, he would make up for it with athleticism and block a shot away. There are times where Purdue's defense gets beat, and Daniel Jacobson just smacks the shot off the backboard because of his length and because he's basically in the game to keep people from getting easy shots at the rim.
Or sometimes he even commits a foul, but then you're making a guy earn the 2 points or whatever. I
think he's a game changer in a lot of ways, despite not being a guy that probably, when you look at the stats, you think, well, that guy is a dominant player. I think the combination of him and Oscar Clough, it still doesn't equal what Zach Edey was because he was just a college basketball anomaly, but he gets you pretty close statistically anyway.
Purdue had 1 block last year against Auburn down in Birmingham. They had 5 tonight. 3 of them were by Jacobson. And, yeah, I mean, that's just one of the many, I think, stark differences between this team and last year, even though a lot of the personnel are the same. Obviously, there are key personnel that are different, though, on both sides. This isn't the Auburn team that crushed Purdue last year. There's no John Ibroom. There's some other guys missing.
Baker Mazar is transferred.
So. Exactly. He's in the Big Ten now, right? He's
He's
at
at USC, I
USC.
believe.
So you'll see him again sometime this year. You'll see him in LA actually
next month.
But yeah, I mean, there's not a lot to say here. This was an impressive blowout. Braden Smith, I'm he in particular turned things up after that Iowa State game. I don't know if somebody said something to him. I don't know if he's just a fourth year senior who figured it out on his own, but like he needed to be more of a catalyst defensively. I've said it before, brought it up. Matt Painter said before the season, if our guys who play the most aren't our best defensive players, we can't be a great defensive team. That's something along those lines. If they're not great defensive players, we can't be a great defensive team. It just makes sense, pure math. And he has been really strong defensively now for 3 games in a row. Had 3 steals and a block tonight, 14 assists. And so then like the 11 points that he scores are kind of like an afterthought. Even the 5 rebounds, like he's just been very involved. And I think that was the other thing that, they had 5 blocks tonight and a 3 by Jacobson, but really Auburn was selling for threes for half of its shots. So the number of times they even are attacking the rim, because the guards are doing a good job, like keeping those guys from attacking downhill, getting to the basket the way they were last year, frankly. The way it was just like, pterodactyls swooping in for prey last year. Purdue was the apex predator tonight, and that can be it's just one of those things. Right now they're still, I think, teasing it, right? It's like, this is what it could be if they can line it up and make it look like this every night. Sometimes your opponent's going to have something to say about that, but tonight Auburn did not.
Yeah, and to touch on Braden Smith, because I think he had 3 steals maybe today. Yeah. I thought a lot of his steals in past years, he was kind of like hidden on the other side of the court and would bait guys into throwing a cross-court pass, jump in the passing lane and poke it away. And I think he did that tonight. He did kind of bait a guy to throwing a cross-court pass, and he reached a hand out there and stole it. But he's getting a lot more of just reaching in and poking the ball away and creating havoc. And even if you don't get a steal or force a takeaway that way, you still cause the other team to waste 4 or 5 seconds corralling the ball and trying to set up its offense again. So then you're getting deep in the shot clock. Now, Purdue has a lot of teams that make last-second field goals at the end of a shot clock over the course of the season. I don't know the exact number, but it feels like it's been a lot. But still, I think that's a thing to take into account too. When Purdue's making these teams go deep into the shot clock, it's forced its share of shot clock violations as well over the course of this season. So that said, just impressed defensively as a whole with the way that Purdue held this team down. I want to say my prediction for this game, I had something like 88-79. So Purdue did get the 88, but far below the 79 for Auburn.
Sorry, I'm just now seeing the comments because I was on the wrong page. DJ really a difference maker defensively, and can't talk about last season without the caveat that Purdue no center. That's both good points that we actually just covered. Lawyer 0 for 7, winning by 28. I don't think this team is hit on all cylinders yet. I think that's very much out there. I do still think there's room for growth defensively. Someone asked Traycoff and Wren after the game tonight about how much better they've been playing defensively. And kind of the first thing he said was, "No, we've still got a long way to go defensively." I think the numbers would back that up too. And then finally, our buddy Brad Evan, who's one of our most loyal watchers. Can we talk about the Bears? That game was insane. Well, the reason we have started this at 11:40 or whatever instead of 11 o'clock was that we sat there and watched the end of regulation and overtime of the Bears game. And we want to give a shout out to our buddy Mike Carmen, who I'm sure was in that stadium freezing his mustache off watching a really thrilling come from behind victory for his Bears and mine. And we'll see what old man Rivers does.
Well, Nathan also questioned the decision to go for a field goal and try an onside kick, which ultimately.
Oh, I didn't really. I mean, I knew what they were doing. They were setting up the one possession, but like, it's impossible to get an onside kick now.
Well, you have to announce it.
You have to go tell them what you're doing. Whatever. But improbably they recovered it. Improbably they made a huge 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 stop, and improbably one of what's going to probably go down potentially is like one of the great touchdown catches in Bears history. So yes, we're very aware, Brad. We were watching. Some of us were watching loudly. Some of us were just watching in.
I was just here kind of
amusement.
Waiting. Yeah, but that was thrilling. This game, was thrilling if you were a Purdue fan.
Yeah,
It wasn't competitive, that's for sure. But Purdue was a big reason why, and I think that this could be the first step of something. And now you get a long layoff. You're going to play an opponent the next time you play your last bye game that you're supposed to win, but there's no students. It's kind of a different feel. Yeah, Kent State is the opponents. It's a different environment. It's more family centric in terms of what Mackey Arena brings that day. But it's a game Purdue should win, and then it's going to be hitting the ground running because every game is going to be probably kind of a grind from then on out. So eager to see where this can take Purdue. And you're right. I think back to a couple of years ago where people were saying Purdue hadn't fired on all cylinders, and then it went in the NCAA tournament, played Utah State in the second round, and just went out there and annihilated that team and scored 106 points or something like that. I think that is a very real possibility that there's a night that this Purdue team does have everybody hitting. A night like tonight, but Fletcher Lawyer also goes 4 of 7 from 3 instead of 0 for 7, and you just bury a team by 30 or 40 points.
I mean, listen, that last year's team didn't hit on all cylinders until the postseason either, really. You could argue they didn't hit on all cylinders until the Houston game, and all of those cylinders weren't enough to beat a team of that caliber. But if you saw what they did to Texas Tech, you saw what they've done tonight, what this team can be at its best. You have also seen, though, it's only 2 weeks ago. Iowa State was only 2 weeks ago. And I think it's okay to keep reaching back to that since it's the only loss, and it is another NCAA tournament Final Four championship caliber team. It sure looks like. And if that's the stated goal that they bring up every day when we talk to them, I think it's fair to kind of keep saying, okay, well, how many times have you been on the court with a team of that caliber and what happened? And I don't know if Texas Tech and Auburn are that caliber. They're probably in the conversation somewhere. They're on the spectrum, but it's okay to still kind of keep, for now, I think, since it's so recent, kind of reaching back to that and making a comparison. But that game the Kent State game is December 29th. That may be the next time we talk to y'all because we're going to take some time off for the holidays, as I'm sure you all are, because Purdue is. There's no basketball until that day.
It's made all the football hires.
Yes. Well, now, I don't know. Who knows what could happen any given day on football right now. There may be some things to talk about from a roster standpoint. Maybe we'll have to do an emergency pod. I don't know. We'll see. I was told that we may start seeing some actual announcements at some point, or that you'll start to get an idea of more guys who are coming back there. I'll have something at IndyStar.com on Monday morning that's sort of about, I talked to Purdue GM Brandon Lee about some things that are happening and kind of getting his sense of what December is like. So I'll have that Monday morning if you get up bright and early and read that. There may actually be, I may stretch that out into a couple pieces. So just trying to give people an idea of what that is looking like right now. But thanks for joining us. For Sam King, I'm Nathan Baird. We'll talk to you again soon.